Hello everyone, and welcome to the second week of the semester. This is the first of two videos that you will see. The other one specifically is dealing and talking about the literacy narrative. This is the typical week, this is the typical video where I'm going to review over the major readings and assignments that are due this week, and that is what a lot of the focus is going to be on here. So make sure that you also watch the other video dealing with the literacy narrative. So I wanted to give some background about me, just so that you guys have kind of have an idea of who I am as a person. So I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. My undergraduate degree is in journalism. My master's degree is in English composition and rhetoric, which makes sense because this is what I do, is teaching composition classes. So I've been a tutor, or I was a tutor for 12 years at a number of schools part-time, working my way through those schools. I was an adjunct teacher for 2 years in Chicago, and then I taught full-time at a university in Shaoxing, China, for one academic year. That school was in a partnership with the university as well as the University of Indianapolis. So I lived in another country for a full year before returning to the United States, and I have been in Memphis now since the fall of 2017. In addition to teaching full-time here at the university, I'm also an adjunct at Southwest Tennessee Community College as well. My favorite sports teams: the Chicago Bulls, the Bears, White Sox, and the Blackhawks. My favorite movies: Star Wars, The Godfather, some of the Marvel movies, and The Dark Knight. Favorite television shows: Mad Men, The Wire, Atlanta, Breaking Bad, the first 8 seasons of The Simpsons. And I'm also a huge podcast listener, listening to the Dollop /Filmcast and the 1619 Project. So these are some few things that I thought that you should all know about me, just to give you some background. As reading through your discussion boards, I will no doubt be learning a little bit about all of you as well. So there's a lot to do this week. Essentially, you have 4 readings from our textbook, a summary of another reading, and you will want to begin considering your literacy narrative. As I mentioned, the other video this week discusses the literacy narrative very specifically. Be sure to view this video if you have not done so already. For the discussion board, you will want to complete the readings about first-year composition and its value to college students. Before beginning the literacy narrative, I want you to consider why you are here. For the journal entry, I want you to write about a literacy sponsor. If you do not know what that is, then you need to look over the summary of Deborah Brandt's reading carefully. You should look at the handout for the literacy narrative either immediately before or after thinking about the literacy sponsor. Finally, your one-pager will be about what it takes to be a writer. Student writers often have issues with confidence, and these readings should let you realize just how valuable your voice is. So the first reading that you are doing is called First Year Composition Prepares Students for Academic Writing. And generally what happens when you're doing these readings from the textbook is the titles are the bad idea, and then the rest of the reading is basically explaining why it's a bad idea. So understand that there is a little bit, it's not a disconnect, but the bad idea is the title, and then the author is explaining to you why it's a bad idea. So as we talked a little bit about last week, first-year writing courses are often stereotyped as being about grammar and syntax. This is often untrue, and research shows that only focusing on this does not help students develop better writing skills. First-year writing is often a catch-all blame about why college students cannot write well, even though there are a number of reasons for why that is the case. First-year writing courses can be molded toward being about civics or perhaps the development of rhetorical strategies, and these kinds of classes should not only address what is correct, but how language is used in multiple contexts. First-year composition should be skipped. The other reading that you are doing Many students often wonder why they even need to take this class, and I think a lot of people are definitely efforting to try to not have to take this class as much as they can. But my hope is that while you are here, that this will be a valuable experience. Okay, many states and colleges, because there is a financial crunch, they're trying to fast track students through these classes. However, they are missing the crucial benefits that come with this course by learning how to write. Okay, many people assume that they can write already. That's something that the author discusses and talks about. And while this is true, first-year composition can build upon crucial skills as far as being able to write, and to write well, to write longer papers. There is often an adjustment period, and I think a lot of students find that high school has not prepared them for college as well as they would hope, and that is why I think this class is so important. Writers benefit from social interaction and see other people's approach to language. First-year composition can also unlock different interests and passions in students that they didn't realize were there. So the discussion board is about these first two readings. So you're going to reflect on the two readings from Bad Ideas About Writing. I think these will serve as excellent introductions on how your book subverts common conceptions about writing classes. How do you feel about taking this English 1010 class? Would you want the opportunity to skip it? Considering that you are taking this class now, what do the readings tell you about how you can take advantage of this class? And as always, remember that the initial post should be about 200 to 250 words. The initial post, make sure it's completed by Tuesday, August the 31st at 11:59 p.m. Your two response posts of 100 to 150 words will be due by Friday, September the 3rd at 11:59 p.m. So that is the discussion board for week 1. So one of the other readings that you are doing is you are not reading the full thing. This is a reading that is done by Deborah Brandt. It's about 20 pages. It is a very dense and long reading. And especially here early in the semester, I really want to prioritize some of the readings from the textbooks. And I don't want to overwhelm you by giving you this very long, very dense piece of reading, especially because this is an online class. You know, if we were in person, this is the kind of reading that I think you would really benefit from us talking about in class. But it's very difficult for you to understand. And again, I'm not trying to overwhelm you in week 2. So what I've done is I've created a 1-page summary that I think will help you. People become literate by being sponsored by those who already have developed these skills. For example, school teachers, parents, etc. Reading and writing have become more crucial, but the meaning of literacy has evolved over a number of years. Sponsors can have adverse effects by limiting the way people learn through their own interests. Literacy has become less centralized as information has become more widely available. So what I've really done is highlight sort of the most important points from this reading. It is by no means comprehensive, but literacy sponsors are a crucial part of the literacy narrative. And it's really important. You are not writing a literacy sponsor essay. You are writing a literacy narrative. This is about you. The sponsors are a crucial element of that, but don't make it the only aspect of your paper. Now, what you're doing in the journal entry is you are going to write about one of your sponsors. So make sure that you read over the summary of Deborah Brandt's article, Sponsors of Literacy. The journal you will write this week is fairly simple but crucial, as this will help you brainstorm for your first major assignment, the literacy narrative. I want you to write an entry that is about 3/4 of a page about one of your sponsors. Do not write about more than one person. Write about one sponsor. How did this person help you develop your literacy skills? What did you learn? Did this person have a net positive or negative effect? Try and be as specific as possible so I understand how this experience helped you. I'm not so concerned about sentence structure and grammar, but about the content. I want to see that you are thinking about this prompt. The journal entry must be uploaded by Thursday, September the 2nd at 11:59 p.m. There are 2 other readings, so there are a number of readings that you're completing this week. Four short readings from the textbook, which it might seem heavy, but the reality is that I think you're still ending up reading like 12 to 15 pages total. So again, I'm trying not to overwhelm you. But yeah, that's really important. So I think something else to consider is this reading, You Need My Credentials to Be a Writer. And the author starts off by discussing the idea of people who believe they can be writers versus those who believe they cannot. Being credentialed is important, but you should not prevent people from believing they can be writers. The important thing is that everyone can write. That is something that the author talks quite a bit about. Okay, and the idea that environment can be generated by oneself, even if the external world isn't. So even if you don't have great literacy sponsors, even if you haven't had the best teachers, self-motivation is really helpful and really useful. Writers must develop a strong original voice. Again, this is a bad idea that this author is writing about. Begins with the idea of writers believing they must cultivate their own voice in order to become a successful writer. Writing did not develop from speech, but from a belief that numbers need to be represented. Writing does not happen in a vacuum, but is geared for an audience. Okay, so an audience is always going to interpret your readings. Okay, and they are going to create their own reading and their own meaning. So you can write whatever essays you want, and you may have a very specific purpose for doing that, but your readers are always going to think of it in a different way. Authors should also consider how they engage with audiences with the understanding that their message may be interpreted in multiple ways. Okay? So this is another very good reading, and thinking about considering how you approach this class. So for your second one-pager, you will first need to read You Need My Credentials to Be a Writer, and Writers Must Develop a Strong Voice. And again, for this one-pager, I'm asking you to consider and write in response to 3 questions. Do you consider yourself to be a writer? Why or why not? What kind of writing activities do you complete on a daily basis outside of class? In You Need My Credentials to Be a Writer, Brooks also talks about creating a supportive writing environment and getting to the actual writing. Identify some of these beliefs and why they might make for a successful English class. Explain how the concept of voice, as discussed by Thomas in Writers Must Develop a Strong Original Voice, is a myth, and how literacy narratives themselves are an example of continual integration of knowledge and a way of making sense of the world. So you will need to address both of the readings in the latter 2 questions. This one-pager should be posted onto this Dropbox by Friday, September the 3rd at 11:59. As always, if something is unclear, if you have questions about the one-pager, the journal entry, the discussion boards, any of the readings about literacy sponsorship, please make sure that you ask me as soon as possible. I'm hoping that this video was helpful and will allow you to think about the way that you approach the rest of this week. So have a good week too. Thank you very much for listening and watching.